The moment you stop chasing approval and start building your success, starts chasing you. You've spent enough time looking sideways, watching what others are doing, measuring your worth against someone else's timeline, wasting energy wondering who's ahead, who's watching, and who's judging. But here's the unshakable truth. Success doesn't come to those who are obsessed with the crowd, it follows those who are obsessed with growth. The real game changes when you turn your focus inward. When you stop waiting to be chosen, validated, or noticed and start choosing yourself. Because every minute spent comparing is a minute stolen from your own progress. Every time you focus outward, you dilute your power. But when you zero in on your vision, your purpose, your discipline, everything shifts. The most unstoppable people are artists. They're the ones working in silence, building in the background, and investing in who they're becoming. They don't seek attention, they seek mastery. And that's exactly why success can't help but follow them. Focus on yourself. Not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. Build in private. Heal in peace. Learn relentlessly. Grow unapologetically. Because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs the real you. Fully locked in, fully aligned, and fully committed to your own lane. You are not in competition with anyone but who you were yesterday. We live in a world that constantly pits us against one another. From a very young age, we are told to outperform, to outshine, to be better than the person sitting next to us. But no one tells us to be better than the person we were yesterday. That quiet comparison, the one that truly matters, is often drowned out by the loudness of external expectations. There's a kind of peace that comes when you realize you are not in a race with the world. The only person you are trying to outrun is the version of yourself that once believed you couldn't. That version of you who lived in fear, who accepted limitations placed upon them, who measured their worth based on applause that never came. It is tempting to look to the side, to glance at what others are doing, to measure your progress against theirs. But when you do that, you are in your own journey. You begin to mold yourself into a shape that doesn't fit your soul just to fit into someone else's definition of success. You are not late, behind. You are right where you are supposed to be. Your timing is sacred and your story is unfolding exactly as it needs to. Comparison is a thief. It robs you of joy, of focus, of gratitude. But self-reflection gives you vision, strength, and clarity. You must make peace with your past self, not with regret, but with reverence. You must look back and thank that version of you who didn't quit, even when it would have been easier. That version who kept waking up, who kept trying, who whispered, maybe tomorrow, even when today felt like too much. The real competition is in the mirror, and it's a gentle one. It's not about crushing your old self, but about uplifting them, holding their hand and saying, we've come so far, let's go a little further. That's where growth begins, in love, not in war. No one else has your exact path. Your life is not a replica of anyone else's journey. It is original. And that originality deserves to be honored, not erased by imitation. When you focus on becoming better than your past, you automatically rise without pushing others down. There is courage in choosing self-improvement over self-comparison. Because the world makes it easier to compare, to scroll, to watch others, and forget your own reflection. But it takes strength to turn inward and ask, who am I becoming? Instead of, what are they doing? Each day is a new invitation to outgrow your old patterns, to speak with more kindness, to act with more purpose, to dream a little bolder. That's what matters, not if you're better than someone else, but if you are bolder than you were before. We all have our own mountains to climb, and they aren't visible to others. You might be scaling emotional cliffs that nobody sees. You might be healing wounds invisible to the eye. That alone is progress. That alone is success. When you focus inward, you give yourself the space to evolve, to acknowledge your efforts, to celebrate your smallest wins. And that energy grows. It multiplies. Until it becomes the foundation for everything else you want to build. The day you stop chasing someone else's timeline is the day you step into your own power. You start walking at your own pace. You start dancing to your own rhythm. And in doing so, you become unstoppable not because you're ahead, but because you're aligned. Your dreams do not require you to compete. They require you to commit. Commit to the process, commit to the healing, commit to showing up even when nobody sees you, especially then. Because growth often begins in the shadows, long before it blooms in the light. Remember, your story is not theirs. Your path is not theirs. Your pace is sacred. And every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory worth honoring. Healing is the first step to true success. Success often wears a glamorous face in the world's eyes. But true success, the kind that leaves you grounded and fulfilled, doesn't begin with achievements. It begins with healing. It begins with the soft, quiet work of facing the places inside you that still tremble. You cannot build a future while carrying the weight of a wounded past. You might try. You might even succeed for a moment. But eventually, the cracks will show, the pain will rise, and the foundation you built on survival will begin to crumble. Healing is not optional, it is essential. There is no shame in breaking down. There is no shame in hurting. In fact, there is honor in choosing to turn toward your pain instead of running from it. Because that choice, that brave choice, is the birthplace of strength that doesn't shake when the storms come. We have been taught to move quickly, to achieve without pause, to silence our emotions in pursuit of progress. But you are not a machine. You are a soul. And a soul cannot thrive in numbness. It only blossoms in truth, in honesty, in softness. Healing doesn't always look graceful. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like crying for no reason. Sometimes it looks like stepping away from everything you once believed you needed. But make no mistake, that too is success. That too is forward movement. When you heal, you begin to hear your own voice again. You remember what matters to you. You begin to make decisions from a place of peace rather than fear. You stop reacting and start responding. That shift is powerful. That shift changes everything. You cannot chase dreams with a heart full of unhealed wounds, because the wounds will always whisper doubts. They will always question your worth. They will always pull you backward. But when you choose to heal, you reclaim your narrative. You take back your power. The path of healing is not linear. There will be days when you feel like you've regressed, days when you question your progress. But even on those days, you are doing the work. Even in the setbacks, you are moving forward. There's a quiet success in choosing to forgive not because they deserve it, but because your soul does. Forgiveness is freedom, not for them, but for you. You let go of the chains that kept you stuck in a story you didn't write. Healing teaches you compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. You begin to treat yourself with the same kindness you once reserved for everyone else. And in that tenderness, you find a strength that no title or trophy can give. You become more authentic, more present, more alive. You start showing up as your full self, not the edited version, not the one who wears a mask, but the one who is raw, real, and resilient. And the world begins to notice, not because you shout, but because you radiate. Success then becomes redefined. No longer is it about proving your worth. It becomes about honoring it. No longer is it about being seen. It becomes about seeing yourself clearly and choosing to rise, not to impress, but to heal. You don't need to have it all together to begin. You just need to begin. Begin with truth. Begin with courage. Begin with grace. One breath at a time. One tear at a time. One step at a time. Healing is not weakness. It is strength. It is the quiet revolution within that changes everything on the outside. Because when you heal, you don't just transform your life, you transform every space you walk into. You become a beacon, a reminder that rising is possible, your value is not defined by what others think. There comes a time when you have to stop asking others who you are and start remembering who you've always been. The truth is, you were born worthy. Before anyone judged you, named you, praised you, or rejected you, your value already existed. It wasn't given by people, so it cannot be taken away by them either. It's easy to tie your worth to the voices around you, to their compliments, to their silence, to their applause or their absence. But if you continue living for their approval, you will keep dying in their disapproval. And no soul was made to live in chains that are invisible. People's opinions will always shift like the wind. One day, you're too much. The next, you're not enough. One moment, they celebrate you, the next, they forget you. If your worth depends on that, you will live exhausted, confused, and disconnected from the truth that has always lived within you. You are not a reflection of their perception. You are a reflection of your own light. And that light doesn't need to be understood to exist. The sun doesn't apologize for shining too brightly. Neither should you. The world may not always see you for who you are, especially when you start rising beyond their expectations. But that's okay. You weren't created to fit into small minds. You were created to grow, to expand, to rise into your own truth, even if it intimidates others. There will be moments when you feel unseen, overlooked, underappreciated. But those moments are sacred because they invite you to see yourself, to validate yourself, to become the kind of person who doesn't wait for permission to be powerful. Your value is not in your productivity. It's not in how many people admire you. It's not in the size of your following or the sound of your name. Your value is in your being, in your breath, in your kindness, in your resilience, in your courage to keep showing up as yourself. You are not a product. You are a soul, and no one else gets to price you. No one else gets to decide your worth. That belongs to you and to the Creator who molded you in love, not in comparison. Every time you choose to love yourself despite the noise, you reclaim your power. Every time you refuse to let someone else's opinion define you, you rise a little higher. And that rise, it's silent, but it's sacred. That rise is what success is made of. Sometimes you won't fit in because you're meant to stand out. Not in a loud way, but in a deeply authentic one. Your uniqueness is your superpower, not your burden. And when you honor that, you begin to shine in a way that no validation can match. Do not give the steering wheel of your life to people who have never taken the time to know your heart. You know the battles you fought. You know the tears they never saw. And yet, here you are still standing. That strength alone makes you worthy. Let them misunderstand you. Let them misjudge you. What matters is that you don't start misunderstanding yourself because of their limited vision. Stay true to your heart. It will guide you home every single time. You are not defined by who walks away, who doesn't understand you, or who doubts your journey. You are defined by how deeply you continue to believe in your purpose even in their silence. That is success. That is power. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You need you to believe in you. And when you do, life opens up in the most beautiful, unexpected ways. Because the universe responds to authenticity. It moves in favor of those who finally decide to trust their own worth. Silence, solitude, and stillness are sacred tools for self-focus. In a world that rewards noise, choosing silence is an act of rebellion. In a world that celebrates constant movement, choosing stillness becomes a form of power. When you choose solitude not out of loneliness but out of love for yourself, you begin to discover truths that only the quiet can teach. There is something sacred about being alone with your thoughts, not running from them, not numbing them, just sitting in them, feeling them, holding space for what hurts and what hopes. That's where healing begins. That's where self-discovery unfolds. You do not need to be busy to be worthy. You do not need to be surrounded to be valued. The most profound breakthroughs often come when everything else is stripped away and all that's left is your real and ready to listen. Stillness allows you to reconnect with your intuition, with that small, powerful voice inside you that knows what you need before the world tells you what you should want. It's not always loud, but it is always honest. When you slow down, the masks fall. The roles you play for others begin to loosen. And what remains is your truth, your essence, your longing, your deepest values. You can't find that in noise. You can't touch that in chaos. Solitude teaches you to be your own companion, to enjoy your own company, to hold your own heart through every high and every heartbreak. And when you learn that, you stop settling for half love, for shallow praise, for distractions that lead nowhere. It is in the quiet moments that you realize what truly matters. You begin to see how much time you've spent chasing what doesn't nourish your soul. You begin to feel the ache for alignment, for authenticity, for peace. People may not understand your retreat. They may label it as withdrawal. But you are not withdrawing, you are returning. Returning to yourself, to your center, to the version of you that isn't performative but present. Stillness doesn't mean inaction. It means intentional action. It means moving from a place of clarity, not chaos. It means creating from the calm, not reacting from the pressure. That kind of movement creates miracles. You don't always need a plan. Sometimes you just need to pause, to breathe, to let the answers rise from within. Because when the soul speaks, it doesn't shout. It whispers. And only the quiet can hear it. Silence is not empty. It's full of answers, full of possibilities, full of messages from the universe waiting for your attention. But you must be still enough to receive them, open enough to hold them. In solitude, you remember your power. You remember that you are not behind, that your worth is not tied to your productivity, that your presence is enough, that your voice matters 7, if only you can hear it right now. Focus is born in silence. Direction is found in stillness. Purpose is revealed in solitude. These are not places to avoid. They are places to visit, to dwell, to honor, because they bring you back to what is real. And when you return from that quiet space, you carry something different. A strength that is calm, a confidence that is humble, a clarity that doesn't need to shout, and that is where success begins to find you. There will come a time in your life when you stop running after what was never meant to see you. You stop begging for seats at tables where your soul was never fed. And in that stillness, when you stop chasing and finally choose to focus on yourself, something sacred happens. You begin to remember who you are. The world will keep telling you to look outside, to measure yourself by noise, applause, validation, and visibility. But the greatest success was never found in the noise. It was born in the quiet, in the nights when you healed in silence, in the mornings when you rose despite the weight, in the moments no one clapped, but you still showed up for yourself. Success doesn't follow the loudest voice in the room. It follows the one who dares to focus inward, the one who refuses to be distracted by competition and comparison, the one who understands that personal growth is not glamorous, but it is powerful, that solitude is not punishment, but preparation. When you shift the spotlight from them to you, you realize the only approval that ever mattered was your own. You realize that chasing the world means abandoning your truth, but choosing yourself, that is where the transformation begins. That is where strength is rebuilt. That is where success starts to whisper your name. You don't have to be everywhere to be aligned. You don't have to be seen by everyone to be valuable. And you don't have to prove your worth to people who don't even know your story. Focus on your growth. Protect your peace. Heal your wounds. Trust your timing. Because when you do, the right people, the right purpose, the right path, they don't just appear, they respond. They respond to the energy of someone who knows their worth and is no longer willing to waste it. They respond to the fire of someone who has turned pain into purpose. They respond to the quiet, unshakable power of a person who finally chose to focus on their own becoming. Success follows those who no longer beg to be chosen because they have already chosen themselves.